See how this goes. Is it working? Or does it seem quiet? Let's boost that better for you. Does that seem really quiet, or is it just my headphones? Okay, where are we going? We're not even getting into the yellow very frequently, so let's see if we can improve that a little bit. There we go. Okay, so today we are going to be working on getting I need the attachment to be downloadable. So when I click on it, I can see it. Otherwise, that's not useful. And then I can move on. And what I think I'm going to start with is actually focusing on the notifications aspect of the application. How do I want that to work? Because a lot of that is going to be understanding what changed, understanding the watching for fields changing, watching for certain pieces changing, and figuring out how to subscribe users to those events so that I can quickly and efficiently. Just realized I didn't take my vitamins yesterday. I can quickly and efficiently notify people. So let's get the first part done, which is getting the file upload downloaded. So let's run this up. Also, I need to, let's see where this goes. I figured it would do. Yeah. I need to remember to advertise the stream. That won't help me. Okay. Okay, so Chrome, localhost 4200. Still logged in. That doesn't seem right, but we'll see. And That needs to go away. Settings, audio. Show widget. There you go. Okay, so that's not working because we're not actually signed in. So I've got an issue there with the app thinking it's signed in when it's actually not. We need a loading screen for this. Maybe that was working. Broker. Yeah. Forget. Sky draw. Interesting. That's wondering if SQL Server's not up and running properly. Well, looks like it is. Yeah, we're querying. So interesting. Why aren't you showing? No, I want to start today. No, it is erroring. With an Apollo error, not a failed. Oh, helps if you run the full stack. I just assume it's at that, which is a mistake. Although I shouldn't have actually been logged in either, so that was still a problem. So wait for that to all start. There we go. Okay. So past due, adding requirements. So what should happen here now is when I go to attachments, there's all my attachments. I've been adding all my events we've gone through. Mr. Jones, good day. How are you doing? So now when I click this, what I want to happen is I want the file to download. My apologies for the bright white screen. But obviously that's navigating away. Now that's still an authenticated request, so that's not simple. Attachments. So fetch download URL should return the actual URL of the file. In this case, I've added the endpoint for get. That's weird that that's not. That's not right. But it's not. That I'll worry about later. That's a problem. Ugh. Um, so what do I want to do here? I want to download the file when I click on the URL. That's an authenticated request though. How can that be authenticated? It can't be, can it? Unless I get it doesn't matter about the download URL, does it? It matters that I'm getting the download. Hmm. Been a while since I've done this. Funny how you forget how. Um, fetch to download file or browser. Essentially, is what I want to do. Does that work? Because that would. How would that work? Let's inject attachment rather than mess around with the store here, which the store has nothing to do with this. Let's do that in here. So fetch download URL doesn't need fetch download URL, but it's fetch download, right? Identifier string. So again, we've got the identifier of the actual download we're going to get. Interesting. Mojo, how you doing? Good day, observable blob. Let's give this a go. Attachments. So now I still expect it to fail, but interesting. That was an interesting result, wasn't it? That reloaded the page. Oh, but that's not what I wanted to do though. That's misbehaving now because that's on yeah, that's not right. That should be click. We're getting a URL. How browsers work. That doesn't work. Or does it? No. Um, leave. That makes that work properly. No, but I don't want to do an actual click, do I? Let's go in here and do debugger. Oh, what am I doing? I suppose that does still work. It just doesn't make sense. Um, let's not make extra calls in there. I don't think I'm hitting that endpoint either, so it doesn't really make a difference. But let's go in here. I'm going just getting ready for the day. How are you? Not bad, not bad. Taking a walk, got coffee. You know, fun start to the day. That's not really going to do very much for me. I think that might be returning 404, but because that's not actually making a request, so that's not good. So What I'm going to do today is I'm going to try and get this done as quickly as I can. Then this wraps up the file upload part for right this second in its current form, right? So at that point, I have attachments able to be attached and downloaded again, right? That meets the requirements for right this second for this feature. At that point, I'm going to make a merge and get everything back to development branch, and then I'm going to start the planning and implementation, hopefully, of the notifications component, because I think that's a big feature of what I want to demonstrate is why this is different to other products. So that's going to take some tinkering, some experimentation, and some uh, serious effort. Because with the notifications piece in place, this starts to become a very useful tool in terms of understanding when things are expiring and when things are changed and all that stuff. So let's stop attachments. Actually, do we allow? No, so that is not compiling properly. The fact that I can't debug it says that that isn't behaving as I expect. So let's go to, did I have one ready to test in Insomnia? I also need to reset my Insomnia. Come on. I hate how all these tools now kind of require logins. It's very frustrating. They're just getting bigger and heavier. It's going to say, is that an artifact of my machine being overwhelmed or Insomnia being slow to start up? I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. Kidding me? Log in. This is weird. What line? I'm missing something. I need to log into Insomnia, but I can't. Do not delete this. Hey TT, how you doing? So, I need to get the camera hooked up to the stream as well because it helps when I'm doing this sort of stuff to be able to sit and not have people like in complete silence. You know, whether you care or not is yeah, yeah. I don't have my insomnia token. Normally I'm good at this sort of stuff. Or at least better than I used to be. If I forget the passphrase though, it wipes everything else I've done, everything I've created, which is annoying. Um, yeah. Um, I think I just lost everything. Come on. Tell me you're not opening another copy. Like, I get that these tools are pretty much crucial tools in development, but them getting heavier and heavier is not helping. Um, oh, not that one. There you go. That should open with me logged in now. I probably lost all my collections, but it's fine. I can get through that. I've at least backed up the key this time. There you go. Okay. So there we go. This is the download request. So if we start the attachments endpoint now, and run that, could not connect to server. Because I didn't start the gateway. So attachments, debug. It's fine. It's fine. It's all fine. 7243. I might get unauthorized. No. Interesting. That's because of that. Ty Marley, thank you very much for the follow. That's thank you, Marley. There we go. So let's do that. Let's do that. I just paste it into a leak and then take the token. That's all I'm doing there. If you're new to the stream, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to share. I am happy for the discussion on this. This application is one I'm building with the intention of it becoming a product, and slowly building towards that. And it is at this point large enough that it's very difficult to just divert. And so if you are interested and you want to know more about what I'm building, you're more than welcome to ask. Okay, so let's do that. Timeouts are not supported in the stream. Okay, so that's because of the way I'm returning it. Okay, that's fine. Download file async. So what I did is I put in the storage provider download file, right? And that's because I've used a memory stream of that. Go to implementation. So yeah, I've used a memory stream. Let's have a look. Download blob client file Azure. So I could, in theory, expose this endpoint, this URL to the client, so I can just provide that link. That's kind of how I intended it. So I don't actually need to do the download, but then again, I can't authenticate it either. So this has to be an authenticated request. Download blob to string, download from a stream, download a block. So what am I actually doing here? I'm downloading. So download 2 is deprecated. No, download async is deprecated. Yeah. Download content. Downloads a blob from the service, including its metadata. Download to async. Download streaming. Gives access directly to network stream that should be disposed after usage. Consider the following alternatives. Download content async. And download to async. Downloads a blob using parallel requests and writes the content to destination. Right, but that means that I have to return that file. That's the problem. So if I use a file stream here, say file stream equals new file stream, say file handle, string path, file. Does it get random file name? Gotta do that. Yeah, download to async is the one that's there. Stream to write the downloaded content to. So I understand I'm incurring the cost of one way of doing this would be for me to authenticate the request. So fetch download URL would actually make a call to the server and provide the blob storage URL, right? But then that blob storage URL isn't accessible from the client because it's not authenticated. So I'm an authenticated client here getting this. So I don't want to allow anonymous read-only access to these files. I want to secure the files because, again, these are files that could be someone's business. They could be someone's entire plan, right? So I don't want them publicly accessible without some level of authentication. So that's why I'm going through the effort of doing it this way. If these were like images that were shared or something, then I probably wouldn't care. And what I'd do is provide the blob download URL, and then I could, if I was in a business, secure the IP range or secure the domain that the requests are coming from, etc. But it's this seems a little bit more secure in terms of this client has to be authenticated with the server. So this has to have the key, and this returns the file stream. So you have to have an authenticated request to my server to then have that key used. So I'd be interested if anyone has any alternative methods here. I'm completely open to learning different ways of doing this or considering different ways of doing this because, again, this is something I've not done a lot of in the past, especially not with Azure. So I'm growing. Um, so hey Apex, how you doing? When a user requests a file, transfer it to a USB and mail it to them. Just safe. Also, I'd break. Sorry, Mojo. Path dot get temp path. Um, I'm good. I'm good. File dot get. What is it? Is it path dot get random? Get random file name. Oh, it's that. Path dot combine. That. And that's file stream dot open. I thought it was file. There you go. Result. But that doesn't help me because that's not really what I wanted to do. Because that's not going to work. Because, you know, how files work and all. That's just going to return something that's not going to do exactly what I want it to do. What I should do, or what I wanted to do is open the memory stream and feed that back out. So that's going to fail in a different way. Yeah. Because that's not what I want to do. Because that's just downloading it to a temporary file. There you go. Okay. Okay, so this should be that's the stream. That's fine. Interesting. Okay. So what I'm looking at right this second is this on fast endpoints. Supply an IO stream to this method for reading binary data from. All three methods allow to optionally specify the content type and file name. A file name is specify the content disposition attachment. Right. So if I pull in here, if I pull the right way, this includes the metadata, right? So, although that doesn't tell me it includes the metadata, does it? Download, download, including its metadata and properties. That's the thing I care about, because if I have the metadata, when I upload the file, I include metadata of the attachment name. So what this would end up with is a file that will download with the correct name on the client. I need to tell jokes after ad breaks. I think you missed facts in that chain as well. So I could download content does download streaming async as a replacement to this API. But that's all wrapped up in blob stuff. So what I'm trying to do here is abstract the blob stuff. So this is just a straight file stream, but the problem is that that might not actually be possible, right? So I'm trying to return a stream. Await blob client dot get blob let's try that one. And on this side, we need to look at the fast endpoints thing again. So there are three methods you can use to send file data down to the client. Send stream async, which is probably the one I want, right? But you see how they gave a lot of documentation on how to use this. It's just three methods. There you go. So what's the return type? So send stream async returns a task. Await. So that becomes what? Right? It's just a task. So does that become okay, not found? Right? Um, await storage.download file async user.get tenant identifier rec the identifier.string. And also CT. No, you don't want cancellation token there? But that's what you were whining about. I won't say explicit cancellation token because the other options, the other files are optional. But the problem is here now. I don't think that's going to work any better than Uber. So ideal world, this just worked and this was nice and simple. Oh, but that worked. Kind of. Status code cannot be set because the response has already started. So that means that is just that. And there is no. Hold on. Yeah, that's better. So it's handle. In this case, it's handle because there's no actual expected output. So this is an authenticated request. And then, yeah, okay. But that was the content of the file. That does not contain the headers, does it? So this won't work on the other side, right? This won't work here because I can test that. Start the gateway. I was in the shower when you were mentioning it. What are you doing to confirm that person X is authorized to access file A? And I assume groupings. Okay, so right now, when you are logged in, you have a tenant identifier. That file is put under a folder of your tenant. So when you make this request, you're an authenticated user of the tenant. So I haven't gone deep into permissions yet. Ultimately, this permissions is going to be the permissions are going to be much more granular. But right now, basically, you have to be a member of that tenant to be able to get that file because it pulls your tenant identifier out of your user, um, which is set when you log in. Ultimately, um, I do want to be able to control who can see what files, obviously, because again, planning wise. Um, that work or not work then? Clear that. Huh, interesting. And I assume groupings. What's the, in terms of groupings, what do you mean? Groupings? Oh, that's it. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, because so everything right now has a tenant identifier attached. So when you are logged in, you are attached to the tenant, and that's handled in Auth0 right this second. So I what I do is in Auth0, no, auth0.com, not auth.com. That's not a page. Um, Login. I'll bring it up once I've logged in because it's continuing. Yeah. So in Auth0, what I have is I have in the users, I store details here. I store the current tenant in your user metadata, and I store your available tenants in your app metadata. So if you sign up for a second tenant, it will add it to that tenants list. So the ultimate goal would be when you go to log in, it's going to say, "Oh, who are you logging in as?" Um, and it only uses the GUIDs here, so you don't have any identifiable information. So even if you get hold of this, you'd have to guess at a tenant ID. So it stores that in the app metadata, and when I log in, it it can validate this, but it also then passes that down. So it sets this. So if I had a second ID here, I could set which tenant I'm actually logging in as. So the request is for that tenant. That's what we're dealing with right now, tenancy. So it means that every record I create, I have the tenant of the user creating it. So I don't have to do anything more complicated than get it from the actual auth token. Um, so I just have this, which goes and says, okay, go and get the tenant out of the claims principal. And there you go, done. And that's the tenant ID. And the data tables themselves, if I go to planning items, tenant identifier. And again, in this system, there's nothing identifying the tenant. If you have all of this database, you just have a GUID. There's no identifiable information. You have to have tenant management to understand who the tenant is. And that's your tenant information, right? So, and then the tenant users here. So again, you can see there's no users in planning items because we don't care about users in planning items. You just care about data. Um, users are joined back together here because the tenant users are produced here. But again, not all the information. So yeah, definitely overcomplicated ours. Yeah, tenancy is not tenant. There's all sorts of opinions how to do tenancy, and there's challenges and pitfalls depending on how you laying your data out. Uh, one of the things this does, one of the things I did tinker with early on was the concept of having a database per tenant. But then I realized that if I was breaking up so if I was using schemas, hey, like our, if I was using schemas, then this would be a bit more possible because then I could have a database per tenant, and then all these planning items, tenant management attachments, ticket, etc., would be schemas under that tenant database. But the challenge with doing it that way is you have to build a connection string per request and figure that out. So tenancy is a little bit meh. Like to me, the way the data is right now doesn't really warrant that level of complexity. So, but maybe I can flex that later on. And ultimately, the application shouldn't care. Um, Thank you for the follow-up, Black Arrow, by the way. Will the subdomains change when switching between tenants? I don't need them to right now. I don't because again, this would be a platform, right? This would be a software platform, so there's no need for um, customization at that level. Um, and I wouldn't offer and yeah, you could use that method to identify which tenant you go into with an authenticated user um, or which database even change the subdomain. So company A dot liquidsky.com would would definitely be possible. Yeah, I did spend some time at the beginning of the project figuring out which way I wanted schema to go, and I decided that the separate databases for the separate things was definitely good for now. I have considered schemas, um, but yeah. So yeah, in general, if you're new to the stream, what I'm building is an agile platform, as I refer to it as. It's right now it's focused on the planning aspect of the tooling, but this is basically think a Jira or a Trello plus sort of thing. Right now I'm working on attachments. Um, there's a lot of technology involved. You're more than welcome to ask questions. If you have an opinion on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to share. Um, I'm open to learning new ways of doing things all the time. So the one thing this doesn't do, doing it this way, that is meant to. So open read async does not include the metadata. So I get no file name back. So that's not ideal. So await blob client dot. So that would work. It will only download the blob as the stream is read from, right? So that's um so what I need is the actual metadata to come through because the metadata contains the actual file name. So when I click on that, I should get download for testme.txt, right? That's the way I want it to work. I don't want to display this. Or do I? No, I don't want to display this. I don't want to get into that business right now. I want to if you have an attachment, you can download the attachment and have a look at it. Preview and things like that can come much later. Um, so download has been deprecated. Download async has been deprecated. Download content. Um, download content, including its metadata. So let me go back to. So I think that this didn't support this, but let's result equals new memory stream, right? Await blob client, download to async. No, download content async. No, that's not what I want. Because again, I'm trying to abstract. I'm trying to abstract Azure storage from the actual front end part. So because I'm putting it behind a storage provider, because I do want to be able to support different storage providers. So this comes with another challenge in that I now have to. I can't know about HTTP etc. here because that would be blurring the concepts in, right? So that would say, oh well, I'm always using it in that manner. Well, I can know about it. Should I know about it? So download content async is a blob download result. So these two. So these two support the metadata, which is what I want. Download streaming, download content async. Var result equals turn result dot. So that's why. That's annoying. What I'm trying to avoid is a database request here. Because right now I don't have a, if I just have this, I can just go and get the file. I have the GUID because I have the identifier of the file that we're downloading. And I don't need to necessarily query the database to get the actual file information. If I can't do it this way, right? If I go back to this, I get the file contents, which works perfectly fine. That's acceptable. However, I would now need to, on this side, make a query for that file to go and pull the actual metadata so I can attach the type and the file name, which seems redundant being that I've got it in the file. But I don't have it in the file. So unless because what I'm doing here is I'm picking my poison, right? I'm picking, okay, do I have a database lookup and then a clean file stream, or do I have to download the file to the local machine, store it in a file, return an object that is the file stream with the metadata attached to it, and then just to try and abstract the fact that I'm using Azure storage? I can do it. It's not clean, but doing it this way, if I make a database request, it's better because then it's more general. So if I have local file or remote file or whatever I have, no matter which way I get the file, there's always a consistent way as long as I can return the stream content. I don't care about everything else. Hmm. what would be good is if I could generate. No, because that would be generate SAS URI. Because that'd be pretty useful. Because they could, if you could generate a one-off. Hey, Doctor, how you doing? Been to the gym again? It's time for work, right? Oh, oh, you clock in. Oh, I had dodgeball yesterday. Made me extra tired. Whew. Okay. See, okay, I get you. Yeah, my work laptop stays off until I actually have to work. Also realized an issue with story points. 13 one-pointers are way easier than one 13-pointer. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to. um, I think the challenge with pointing is coming into it is figuring out. Um, sorry, I left it on that screen. Um, a a scale equivalent, a scale relative to the team. Um, and I think it's about adjustment of that scale appropriately to represent the effort required. So 13 points might be small if you make things yeah. Uh, Again, it's a relative scale, right? So if I say 100 points is difficult, 13 points is a day's work, right? uh, I'm just throwing numbers up, but it's like 13 points isn't difficult, right? Um, so the points should be relative. Again, that's why I think a reference story is necessary. I think what you do is you find a reference story and you say, okay, this rough amount of work we with these things in it. So we have a query, we have a screen, we have an update, and we have a button, and that's the feature, right? Um, that's a feature. We're going to say that's a 3 point story, right? That's what we agree upon. Here we've documented it. This is the amount of work. That's what we should be basing our effort on, right? So every story that comes along should be relative to that story's 3 points, right? So and the general rule is five is almost twice as much work as a three. An eight is relative. Well, you should do it across devs with different skills and experience. No, because again, if I have a 3 points, if we say yes, we agree this is a 3 point story, it doesn't matter whether you've got more or less experience. The time will differ when you do the story. So I might take one day, whereas a less experienced dev might take 2 days to do the same story. So it's just time at that point. So, but it's still the amount of effort is the same. I think that example also shows you want smaller stories overall. Eight has so much more risk than three. In general, having smaller stories is more um, approachable because you can break up work and get it done and make forward progress. Um, Right, and so that point will be the average of effort of what you both think. I think trying to optimize for speed is the wrong approach. You want quality and fewer bugs, but you want to make marked progress, right? Um, that's the challenge with and Amy Strayhorn. As developers, we want to get things done, right? But as a business, they want to understand what's being done and how quickly it's being done. And but they also expect us to hold to good standards in general, but we're not always held accountable for them, right? Um, the important thing I think is per team of developers working on a product that they have a reference. So team A's, yeah, another story points discussion. Um, Team A 3 point might not be Team B's 3 point, but they should still be their relative 3 points so that you can get their scale. If you try and hold the entire organization to one story, and I've seen this, it gets very messy because some teams look like rock stars and some teams look terrible. So doing a single story per group per organization challenges. Story points should not be about timelines. Well, yeah, he's not saying. I don't think Apex was saying that. It's like more story points to the outside world. They reason timelines against them. What shouldn't happen is developers should not be expected to hold to any expectation of timelines. Just because we achieved a 3 point story in a day last sprint doesn't mean we can achieve that same 3 point story in a day. This a different 3 point story in this sprint. Our estimation may be off. Our understanding of the problem might be off. The requirements might be missing, right? So there's all manner of things that could go into it. What it's meant to be, is reflective. It's meant to be retrospective. It's not meant to be um, a guarantee in any form, right? So you're meant to be able to retrospect over that and say, oh, well, actually, this was more difficult. Here's why. Here's what we missed. Okay, well, next time that sort of story comes along, we know what to add. You've got to avoid the fear. That's where the Scrum Master should be kind of guiding the team and saying, well, no, hold on, you're letting fear take hold of that pointing. But you should be able to use story points to make educated thoughts about timelines. Story points lead into the more accurate and the more consistent a team is, the more reliable time estimations can become. But they shouldn't be. They should be estimations. They should not be deadlines. The team should definitely retrospect over uh, um, their effort within a sprint. When organizations start to make, oh, well, they've only got 6 points, they've got not got enough work, or hey, they've got 9 points, okay, they'll get this done, and we can get these next 6 points done next sprint, and oh, we can fit these in next sprint, and they start to load sprints up artificially. The team should be owning this, right? The business should not be doing that, and it's dangerous when people do that, but they do. We went backwards from story pointing to story points equals days, and I'm annoyed. Oh, your organization regressed a little bit on the story points. We only use points for sprint estimation, which is figured out 3 weeks in advance. We use a separate impact report to do a long timeline estimation. It's closer to risk than time. 8 is high risk, 3 is low risk. The problem is over time, it becomes associated with time. Um, so it's difficult for orgs not to do that. Um, and I think that's where it becomes important to kind of give the development team enough confidence to say, whoa, 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 no, 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 no. We can't equate story points to days. We can't do this. The dev team has to stop that and nip that in the bud. And if the feeling is that the team is not being accurate enough, then what you do is you reset. And yeah, it throws out estimations, but you reset and review your review your baselines and say, okay, um, because the idea would be that within a sprint, the team is confident they can get the work done. So they say, we can take on 10 points worth of work, say, right? So we got um, three threes and a one, right? At the end of the sprint, if they've achieved that, that's great. Next sprint, they might take up 12 points. They might take 9 points, depending on whatever, right? So from an estimation perspective, these close timelines are pretty accurate, right? So you can say, okay, in 2 weeks, we will have these features. The team is guaranteed to fix these things. At 6 months out, you might have, maybe you have 2 or 3 sprints worth of work planned. So you don't know what 6 months out looks like if you're doing 2 week sprints, right? So you can only look at large estimations and say, okay, well, based upon past experience, these epics took this long, etc. We can estimate that, these will be done by the end of the quarter. The closer you get to the end of the quarter, the more accurate you get. So at 3 months in, you understand um you know, okay, is it looking like it's on track or no? If it's way off, then you know it's way off by 3 months in. Well, again, story points allow you to reason about a timeline. If your timeline is 2 months with a bunch of 13-point tickets, you know you need more investigation spikes, and that 2 months might not be reasonable. Again, based upon 13 points being universally understood as difficult, whereas different teams might actually measure it differently. Um, I took a sprint estimation as the size of the backlog you need groomed. Story pointing sessions and stuff. Yeah. Um, as the backlog you need groomed. Sprint estimation. Hmm. Yeah, so we need 50 points in that backlog. I don't think you should aim for any backlog. I don't think a backlog should be something that developers can go and see. And so, again, in this, right, the ultimate aim would be when stories are created, we have these review dates. Review dates keep them fresh, right? So the review dates keep them being moved around and saying, hey, this needs to be moved up. This needs, so they can prioritize using the review date, right? Um, But again, if you've got a massive backlog that's not pointed, the developers should be able to take it. Oh, we've got a spare hour here or there. Let's do a pointing session. The developers should be able to sit down and go through and point out that work. So, and the product management should be grooming the backlog, making sure that the stories in there are always relevant and the irrelevant or unnecessary stories are removed. So there's not enough, you know, there's not a lot of crap in there. Um, but the groomed backlog should be should allow the product management team to um, estimate based upon how many stories are pointed in the backlog. Um, how far, you know, how long it might take to clear that backlog based upon oh, they're currently averaging 13 points a sprint. Okay, well, there's 150 points in there. We've got about 5-6 sprints worth of work. This process breaks down when stories are constantly added and the churn is there in the stories, or stories are added a lot to make up for stories we missed in a previous sprint. That's why, again, I'm focused so much on the planning aspect, because better planning and clearer requirements will lead to fewer missed requirements, and not impossible, not perfect. um we need 50 points in our backlog to make sure the devs are always fed. I've also not seen a team have more than 1, 3, 5, 8, 13. We've used 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. No, half. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 20. And 100 is we have no idea. 20 is okay, this is extremely hard and there's a lot of unknown. Yeah, more is only better to a certain degree. 200 points is probably not better than 50. Use 21 all the time and then we split, which just becomes an epic and split into small stories. Um, we never have anything of two sprints pointed over that, and it's just hard to know. And it's inaccurate, right? Two sprints were well having them. So hold on, having pointed backlog is useful, right? Having a buffer is useful. You shouldn't be thinking of them as sprints necessarily because they're just pointed work, right? So but they should be reviewed on a sprint by sprint basis, right? So just because we pointed it eight, if we do a story in between that, doesn't mean that that doesn't become a five. Yeah, so it's a faux Fibonacci sequence, isn't it? Story pointing Fibonacci. It's not a true Fibonacci. Um, 0, 1, 2, 3, 13, 21. Okay, 21 maybe. Yeah, there you go. That's the sequence I've used. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 20, 40, 100. That's the sequence I've used. That looks like the sequence. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. So, but I've used that. So it means that a 3 point has, you know, three levels below it and many to the right. So what I've done before is I've seen expert estimation use. Um, well, again, they're all just numbers. It's just relative. That's why the story points, right? They're meant to be relative values, so you can kind of estimate difficulty. So we've used 20, 40, and 100 for expert estimation. So basically, if I sit down, so if we're working on this product, right, I'm the expert. I understand more about the work than most people do, right? So I might work with the product team and say, okay, well, that's a 20, that's a 40. And it's kind of the t-shirt sizing thing, right? That's how we've used those points in the past. Um, yeah, just make up what your team feels value means, right? Because again, it's a way of not letting developers focus on the time and focus more on the actual effort. Story points do not. If story points start to incur deadlines, like, oh, that's a 3 point, you should have that done by tomorrow. That's a problem because it means that the 3 points doesn't have value because you're gonna have to get it done by tomorrow regardless. If there's difficulties in there and it became a 5 point story, it doesn't matter. You got it done within the same timeline that you were expected to because it was a three. So effort plus uncertainty plus complexity, yeah. And the more uncertain you are, the higher you point. You can add, but the more uncertain you are, the you should pull that story out and make a spike. So as uncertainty increases, the story becomes less viable. So again, if you've got a team with less experienced developers, you want to make sure that you are pairing. You want to, especially if they don't agree on a five, right? Because yeah, um, I need to get working. Logging might pop in between people. No worries, Mr. Anhorn. It's not experience, although it kind of is. Um, yeah. Um, again, I honestly feel that building a code base that is flexible but also consistent is important, right? Um, I think that helps with evening out the experience things, right? 20-year guys might go faster, they might go slower. Um, there's things they might miss, but I think that's where what you need to be doing is if you've got 20-year guys and 2-year or 1-year guys, right? you want to be able to pair them together often. And I don't care if the 20-year guy likes it or not. They should be expected to mentor. I think it's a useful facet, and speed should be removed, right? The expectation of quick should be removed, and um the focus should be put on uh, growth. Um, in theory, you story point with you plus other devs on your team and take averages. Right. So story pointing is a tough story pointing is a tough challenge. I'm going to read the rest and then I'm going to come back on that. They're working differently is why they are faster and depends how you define speed. I probably change more lines of code more, but they would complete more stories. Maybe more stories doesn't always mean faster though. That's a good point to pick up why they are doing things the way they're doing. Yes. So story pointing as a team. If we look at a challenge, let's say we go to adding an endpoint, right? So this one's an actual perfect opportunity, right? Because it's really simple. We say, okay, we need to download the file. We have it in Azure. We have the storage provider. We don't need to, we can just inject the storage provider. We know that. We just need to create an endpoint. It should allow us to download a file. What information do we need? We need the identifier of the file and we need the tenant identifier from the user. Awesome. Everyone should understand what that means because we've done it dozens and dozens of times at this point, right? Okay. So I've done some of the download stuff. I've done some of the upload stuff, so I know what the API looks like, right? I might point one. You've not touched it before. You both point three. So the idea there is that I pointed one. I should explain why it's easier. The problem there is what if you are less experienced, you should not necessarily give in to me, right? And this is where this often becomes a push and pull. I say it's a one, you say it's a three. We don't meet in the middle and say it's a two. That's not the right way to do it. We have to discuss and make sure that we actually have the same understanding. What we're doing is removing assumptions. What often happens here, though, is that teams start to break down, and what will happen is you two might go, okay, well, you say it's a one, we'll go with the one. I come along and try to implement this, and I realize, oh crap, the file, I need to implement the database because we don't have access to the metadata. Oh, even I need to up it. It was a three. You two didn't know that, but you pointed at three based upon you didn't know about the API, so you had the unknown. So the point of the planning session, the point of the pointing is not to argue or get someone to come down to your point of view, is to make sure that you are removing all the assumptions. You might say, well, hold on, I don't know about the API. And I say, oh, well, the API is this. And we might agree upon a one. But then when we come to it, we might all say, oh, this was a three because of this. What could we do next time? Right. But the pointing session can often get into the point where you're like, you're either deferring because you're trusting that someone knows more. You're not asking the questions, which is the problem. Assumptions are the most dangerous thing to software development. Every time, if you look at every single mistake about a product, it's an assumption that's gone awry somewhere, right? Where you've assumed that this should work away, or you've assumed that this requirement was in place, or you've assumed this. It happens time and time and time again. So the idea of the pointing is not to be a defensive and argumentative session. It's meant to be an assumption removing, because at that point when the team's pointing, they can be more technical, but you got to keep it on task. Should the person doing the work get the final pointing vote? No, because the person who's doing the work shouldn't be actually in there at all at that point, right? Because the idea of an actual agile backlog is that anybody can take any work, which is why it's important to get the pointing. So you shouldn't do assignments of the work before you even point. The backlog should be available for everyone to take. Now, at the beginning of the sprint, I could say, I'll take that one. And everyone goes, yeah, it's yours. Run. Right. But you are not meant to assign the work because the idea is the pointing is the average of the team anyway. So it doesn't matter who takes it. And again, I might take 3 days on a 5 point story, and you might take a week on a 5 point story. Yeah. Um, I say it's a five, you say it's a three. If I'm doing the story, it's a five. If you're doing, no, I think it's missing the point of it. You have to average. There's no average. If anyone on the team picks this up, does the point make sense? Trying to identify overall effort risk, nothing to do with average development time. Exactly. Yeah. So what you're trying to, again, the pointing is meant to give the organization as accurate a guess as the team can give them as to how difficult this piece of work actually is, right? Without concept of experience or ability. Yes. So the pointing is the actual work to be done, not who it's done by. If you're offsetting it for skill level or ability or general experience level, then you're not really accurately pointing, because my three and your three are different potentially. So the idea of the pointing session is to talk about things. You might have seen this. You might be like, well, hold on, how do we get the file name out? Because the API, you might actually go off and do that in the meeting. You might actually go and look up the API documentation and say, well, hold on, the meta information doesn't come from that. So we're going to have to build this complicated object. And how do we stream it down to the client without creating all sorts of challenges? Right? You might, again, the stories that are to be pointed being laid out ahead of time also help, because you can do any prep work. So what I expected is, if I have 5 stories, I'd send them around to the team before we do the pointing session, and the team should review them and kind of make themselves aware of what those stories look like, so they can kind of pre solve any questions or challenges they have about that work. And then the pointing is focused. So we'd do grooming and pointing as separate sessions. So grooming would be, let's go through and analyze the work and find things out. And then we shouldn't actually agree to point until we're comfortable with the actual work to do. But it's okay if you disagree at the pointing point. Yeah. It's a useful thing because it means that the team is looking at what the work is to do and not thinking about how it's pointed and trying to fit it into a value. What they're trying to focus on is what action needs to be done at a more granular level. You're not solving the actual work, but you're saying, oh, well, don't forget about this. Or again, at every phase, it's removing assumptions, removing expectations of what the software should do. Yeah. So grooming or refinement. Yeah. It can be hard because the pointing session can go on forever if you are trying to do all the refinement. So I would say break it out, have a meeting for grooming and have a meeting for pointing. And pointing should only happen when you're comfortable with the work. So you say, yep, this is ready for pointing. Yep, this is ready for pointing. Um, but you can also get into too technical a discussion, and you got to be careful. So that's why it's useful to send around the list of stories you're going to groom ahead of time and have everyone look. Um, and review. And the idea is you owe it to your team to go into that meeting prepared. So if it's taking 30, 40 minutes to go and look at that stuff, you should do. Now again, that all eats into the timelines, and that's the problem, right? Because it's and that's why the team, oh, there's so much to talk about here. If you are doing that routinely, obviously you're losing several hours a week to grooming and pointing potentially, right? That takes out your overall timeline. So how do you fix that? Because, that's taking time out of your day. Well, when it comes time to sprint planning, you don't agree to be super ambitious on your work. You make sure that you're allowing, oh, we've got a day off here, so and so's out here, so we lose a bit of velocity, and we need to allow for this time. So we only have 7 days out of 10 with meetings and whatnot, right? So we only have 7 days out of 10. That's what we work for, right? If we get more done in that 7 days, awesome. If we get less done, we can retro on that, right? But it's about evening that out, and the team saying, yep, we can take that work and we can do it. And because they've pointed and been truthful about it and they understand the work to be done, there's less miss. So it all feeds back into itself if you do it right. The problem is that what often happens is we start to do some of the things wrong. We start to cut the corners, and then it doesn't feed back into itself, and it starts pushing itself out in different areas, right? So once you start estimating and then points being associated with days, people start chasing you, and then you start to worry about it. So then you start pointing lower, or your pointing gets thrown off. So you're not actually using the system, even though you're using the system. And this is what people find hard about Agile, and what they hate about Agile is because it starts getting and Scrum, it starts getting bastardized over time. There's a very real cost for you, but you recoup it in implementation time because your stuff is more clear. And when people ask why is this hard, you have better metrics to explain things. Yep. You can prioritize the smaller points for more junior people, whilst more senior people can refine the bigger stuff. Of course, bringing juniors along every now and then for growth. I wouldn't give the juniors the little stuff all the time. I would give them bigger stuff and pair with them more often. Um, Again, if I'm working with someone new to software development with this project, right, I would pair with them often on building entire pipelines, right, entire API rights or entire consumption and read stuff, right? That is definitely useful. And over time, yeah, you might lose some time in the beginning, but you'll get faster overall. And small points don't necessarily mean no complexity, right? Because don't forget, small points might mean it's a small change, but they might not understand where that is in the code. So they might need more help, which takes more time from everybody else, right? Um, we made the mistake of the junior asking for hard stuff to prove himself, and he was given my tasks and failed all of them. So there's a limit. But you set them up for failure. They asked for hard stuff. I'm not saying you personally. They asked for hard stuff, but then you let them have it. Did you pair with them? Did you work with them on the hard stuff, or did they choose not? Yeah. Um, it's okay for them to fail as long as they fail because you know, they've got some lessons to learn. Uh, Giving them the tacit name. Yeah. Uh, Sadly, people fail as well. I wish I could say people didn't fail, but um, people fail. But um, in that respect, if you're giving junior developers too much work, and again, junior is not necessarily um, time on job, right? Junior is they're inexperienced, and giving them too much too soon on and letting them fly on their own is a little bit scary. The code base I'm working in right now, I'm junior in that code base, right? Because I don't know the intricacies of the system. I don't know I understand the business as a whole, but I don't understand how the domain has been built out. I don't understand how what the importance of components. I don't understand where things lie, etc. So I'm a junior in that code base, right? So I have to keep going to the more experienced developer and saying, well, how does this work? Why do we do this, etc. So I don't mind being the junior, but I am the junior in this code base. There's no doubt about it. My experience only counts for so much. Requires too much tech knowledge kind of thing. Right, but that's a process failure, not the junior failing. Understand the argument, which is why I'm saying we could have still given him a hard task, but not too hard. But again, mentorship, letting that person grow, um, working with them, not worrying about your timelines, being allowed not to worry about your timelines as well is a very important fact aspect. Sorry, not fact. Um, Before I forget, by the way, I did put in the Discord, in the announcements channel, a message yesterday. So I suggested yesterday kind of a community Q&A. I'd really be interested in people looking at that and seeing how you feel about it, the way I've laid it out. I put some kind of expectations in there as to what I would want if people were talking. Um, you can indicate you've put a thumbs up or something on that. It would be nice to know that if people have read it, and if you have any thoughts or opinions on it, just post in the other channels wherever you feel is appropriate. If there's questions, thoughts, or opinions on it, but I kind of want to do, and it'd be on one of the days off that I have coming up. Um, so it would be July 4th through July 11th, sometime around there. Um, that'd do that because I'd start at my normal time and run through an hour and a half, 2 hours extra so that people could get in. But yeah, if you have any thoughts or opinions on the structuring and format of that, let me know. Um, and we can go ahead and do that. But yeah, I just realized we're in ad break. So Mojo, if you didn't hear that, I said check out the Discord, check out the message, and it'll be sometime between July 7th and 11th, probably. 4th and 11th. Um, and yeah, just let me know. We'll do a community day. Is it plan to support text chat or voice only? Well, it'll be stream. So take care, though. To have a great day. So I'll be streaming. It's just to have a Discord channel where people can drop in and chat and ask more pointed questions. So we'll stream it all. Yeah, I just don't want people sat in the chat with an open mic because One Lion had a community day. He has a community day on Fridays, and someone had the mic open, and I was like, it threw me off. So um, it reminded me of the trouble with running Zoom calls and stuff, right? Where when you get a bunch of people together, you can't always guarantee um, how people work. So yeah, so check out the Discord, check out that message. If you have any thoughts or opinions on it, please feel free to share. I'm open to flexing the format. The idea would be we'd kind of go through this platform as a general uh, thing, and you can ask questions, pointed questions on this, or we can dig into the concepts and talk about that sort of stuff. So more just an open chat with me and whoever. Um, yeah, I'm not being critical. It's people how people like work, right? They have different ways of doing those things, so it's a challenge to juggle. So morning, by the way. Okay, so let's see if we can get this done. So what I want to do is I want to get this done. So basically the idea would be that I can click on the file, get the download going. Um, Once that's done, I can move on and I'm going to start working on notifications. So I'm going to start working on the entire concept of what happens when these expire. How do I tell the system I care about these things? Um, so that will be my goal for the next couple of weeks to get that working, um, and start to get the notification. I don't expect it to be a quick overnight thing. I think that's going to be a long piece to get working. I think I might actually have to get the users managed in here as well, so I can actually create some more users, so I can know who's changing things, and we can deal with all that. But yeah, that's kind of the goal for the next couple of weeks. Is to That's not going to load because nothing's running. So get attachments. So what I think here is I can't avoid the query, and the query is the most um, the query is the most general way of approaching this, I think, because then I can abstract the provider a little bit more. Good morning to you too. I didn't take it critically, by the way, even if it was criticism. It was welcome and helpful, but I understand you didn't intend it to be. No, no, no. It it just made me think of that because I love the community that I love the ability to talk with other people and talk about software and the ability to offer people to show stuff. That's fantastic. I think that is amazing of you to do that. It just made me realize the difficulties in managing that. Like once you get into groups, you don't understand how different people work, and it's not even a criticism of the people involved. It's more okay, lesson learned, challenge that I will have to think about how to overcome. So that's why I've kind of laid it out that way. So yeah, if you check out my Discord, and I can post. I mean, you don't join my Discord because you have a less busy Discord policy. I'm happy to share it in your Discord if you are okay with that, because it will not overlap with your stream at all for certain. But yes. Um, hmm. Are you? Nice. Okay. Yeah. Afternoon, Rambling Geek. How you doing? Yeah, I couldn't remember whether you were in my Discord. Well, that's good. That's good to know that you all seen it then. The more I think about it, the more I think one large community Discord is probably a better way to go for a lot of dev groups. So even if it did, I never want to have the obligation that any regular of my stream commit to being at my stream or anyone else's. Yeah, but definitely can advertise mine too. Cool. I will definitely post something. Junior Coda, welcome in. How you doing? So yeah, check out the post in the Discord regarding the community Q&A. Again, the timeline will be somewhere between the 4th and the 11th of July, um, to be determined. But more than welcome to give me any feedback or thoughts on opinions on what that could look like. So let's get a query in here. So we're actually going to introduce something that I haven't done yet, because this is going to be a query on fetch attachment details. Public record query period tenant identifier period attachment identifier, and it's I query. Yeah, mediator's built out for this, by the way. So yeah, to get a feature out today and it being signed off, I'm pleased to have done it. Started it in November last year. I'm told to drop it and do another project. At least it's done now. The sense of the feeling of satisfaction of a completed feature. Fetch attachment details. I'm not sure I like that. Having a DTO here feels messier because I don't often do query here. If you're new to the stream, if you have any questions about what I'm doing, if you would like to see more or understand more, you're more than welcome to ask. I am building a software platform that is at this point quite a complicated thing to show off, but I'm always happy to show if people are interested in what specifically I'm doing, and don't want to just watch what I'm doing and pick it up as they go along. So feel free if you are questioning this. So let's just leave that there for right this second. We can handle that afterwards. So here's the handler. And this can be, this will be the I repository of attachment. That one, repository. And this will be an I query handler, query attachment details. What? The attachment equals repository dot first the default async. It never feels right to do that. It never feels right to use first the default, especially when I'm expecting there to be one record. It never feels right, but I understand that it is more performant. New entity identifier spec, query identifier, attachment identifier, cancellation token. And then attachment details. So I don't want to return the attachment, right? Because that would be exposing my data model down to the API layer. So I definitely want to attach this. What I'm questioning is, it doesn't really matter actually, because I can do file name, content type. I don't think I need length. Wow, you just turned a Rambling Geek success around on me. Wow. I think I might have to start working on redeems. A ban Mr. Jones redeem. I wish I could listen to you, the Corona DVD Gamer. Someone should clip it for him. Wow. Okay. 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 I get it now. I see where this is going. Ouch. Um, Hold on. Do I not have, yeah, as identifier? Oh. How coding works. I gotta await it. There is only one who enjoys it. I'll remember this. You'll rue the day. Okay, so that will give me access. Actually, I don't need that, do I? I don't need the tenant identifier at all. So what we're going to do over here now is we're going to inject um, uh, sender. So we're going to var attachment detail attachment equals await. It is details. Let's be clear. Await sender.send. New fetch attachment details query. Right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to keep that. 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 And then we're going to put the file name in place. And what is this? Content type. Attachment details. Content type. Yeah, because that's, yeah, file name. Okay. So that should allow me to now query the information of the upload and populate that so that what I actually download is the actual file. So now when I go and do the attachments here, what I'm looking for is this to have headers as towards the actual file content, right? So text plain, attachment file intent. There we go. So that's interesting. It goes and sticks the content disposition on the end. So with that done, let's stop that running. Let's start the full stack. Say again, if you're interested in what I'm working on, this project is not open source. It is a pretty large project at this point. That is I'm building to become a software platform for project management, planning, and work tracking. So let's go here. Let's try and reload everything again. There you go. So we click on one, we go to attachments. What we want to happen and what is happening are two different things. The provided track expression, something's going wrong in that. Let's do track attachment. But they shouldn't be duplicate attachments. Index 0, 1, 1, 2. Is this a problem of? Oh, they're all unique attachments. But hold on, there's only 7 there. How is that getting? Um, Provided track expression resulting in duplicate keys for a given collection. Let's just do this. Let's do attachment.id. See what it's like. Yeah, there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 1. Interesting. Hey, Fritura. How you doing? Welcome in. I'm going to assume Fritura rather than Fry. Please correct me if my pronunciation of your name is incorrect. So what's going on here? So I bet my view is wrong. Yep, my view is wrong. So we're going to select from associated attachments, join planning items, join attachments. I'm heading out. Thanks for the chat today. Apex, no worries. Thank you very much for joining in. It's always fun to have that sort of conversation. So have a great day. So the problem here is one of duplication. So what am I joining multiple times? I shouldn't do. So attachments is a want. Yep, they're all unique. Associated attachments. Ah, there we go. There's the problem. I genuinely have the same attachment associated multiple times. So that should look healthier now. Okay. There you go. The problem with test data. However, that's not doing, it's not doing what it should do. So let's have a look. Let's download file, attachment, ID. Let's create that method. Debugger. Let's do that. That reloads. Go here. Okay, so we have our identifier. So do that. And then this attachment service, download identifier. I don't expect this to work, but I just want an error. An error would be good. So what's that doing then? Hold on. So again, I'm trying to download this through the get. Download file, Angular get. Because I'm not providing a URL, right? I'm not providing the URI. Angular download file. Can't do it that way. Because I'm not building I'm not building a reference, right? I'm building how do I term this? Because this would be it then. Subscribe. Lob. Debugger. Does that actually work differently? Because if I'm not subscribed to it, I don't think it'll do anything. There you go. Oh, it does have it. It has the file. And there is a blob. So there are, for those that haven't been in here before, there are components of the system that do get shared. So things like the Kafka pieces, the mediator that I'm messaging with. There's an awful lot of stuff involved in this application at this point, so it's hard to demonstrate properly. I really should try and figure out a good demonstration of the technology stack because there's a lot of moving parts. It's using Kafka, it's using the message bus, it's using GraphQL. Again, lots of little pieces. So right now I'm focused on the client side. I'm focused on this download, but then tomorrow what we'll be doing is working on the concept of notifications in the system. a big feature of what I want to focus on is this review date thing, where if a review date is passed, so these are all past due, right? I want people to be notified on a daily basis, right? They have the option of, has this just become past due? Has it been sat in past due? Um, Kind of like offer the ability to build dashboards of things you care about or alert notifications, etc. So there's a lot of focus I need to put on that notification process, and I think that's the logical step from here, because I could go to notes. I could add another feature on here, um, but the notes will be the first test of, okay, now I can tell people things have changed or whatever. So um, yeah, it's that'll be the next feature that I work on, but I just need to get this download working first. So that gives me something to work with, right? So I've got the blob, right? Um, yeah, download blob from um, uh, response type blob. So subscribe. Really? No, don't make me do that. Don't make me embed an anchor tag into the page and then automatically click it. Create object. Oh, that does look like the way, doesn't it? That feels that feels less than ideal. So, I mean that's the bare minimum. Let's have a look. Let's see what we can do. So let's do this. Um, a um, attachment download. Okay, we're gonna put the embed that in there so I don't have to create the element. And then over here, view child, um, attachment downloader. Um, is an HTML element. Over here, this dot attachment downloader. Right, okay. So let's copy that code in there. So we have the blob. Const data equals window.url dot create object URL blob. This dot attachment downloader dot set attribute href to data. This dot attachment downloader dot set attribute download. There we go. So that's blob, but I don't get any data on the blob. That's the problem. Download file name. Let's leave that off right now. This dot click. I can kind of live with that. I mean, it ain't pretty, but I can live with it. he says, right as it doesn't work. This set attribute is not a function. It clearly is a function. Okay, so we have our data. That ain't gonna work. That is not gonna work, but we'll see. This dot attachment downloader. Dot get view child. Element ref, that's why. Okay. That works. Let's see if that works. It does download the content. um, Anchors must have content and the content must be accessible by a screen reader. Can I tell it it's just a placeholder to do it with, so let's see how that works. How do I make it download though? Oh, hold on. Is that the file name part of it? Let's have a look. Download identifier. That'll be annoying if that's the case, because then I can't. I'm back to square one with that. Yeah. Dang it. Oh no, I have that, don't I? Of course I have that. This dot store item dot attachments. I get in here without attachments, so that's fine. The irony, the absolute irony. I'm so ultimately it doesn't matter that I attach that information in the query because I'm doing it on the client anyway. So I've got redundancy there that I probably need to. There you go. Does it open? Yes, it does. Okay, so let's go to, I think I attached one more file to one other thing. Okay, let's do this. Let's choose. Let's do download. Let's choose this image. Upload that image. There's our file. Can we open it? Yes, we can open it. So there we go. So we can upload a file and we can download the file straight away, right? So that is there. Let's clean that up. So not where I want it to be, because ultimately what I'm doing there is I'm actually using the client to determine the name and the file type. So all the code on the server that I just did, right? This query stuff on the server actually isn't necessary, even though it gets put in the metadata. If in the future I provide that URL from somewhere else and I can pull that metadata, that might be useful. But as it stands, I've kind of duplicated the effort because I don't need it on the client side. If I was to provide that as a download link, then this would contain that and it'd be fine. So I'm going to leave this in place, even though it's a bit of a duplicate. So we can go here, we can go into our testing things, we can go to our attachments, and we can click on a file and have it download. And it downloaded the 411 meg. There we go. So with that done, that does kind of tie up to this point file attachments. It's not the end. It's going to need more work. I know it's going to need more work. Provide attachments, download. Yeah, endpoint attachments, new download file in storage provider. So stream content, client. Yeah. So if you give it a name, it will download. If you don't give it a name, it'll show it. So that's necessary. Commit and push that. So yeah, if you have any more questions about what I've done on the stream, if you want to know more detail, I'm happy to talk about this stuff. I just don't share the entire code base. At this point, open sourcing a 51 project solution that requires 6 Docker services to be started just to run is not something I feel is useful for anybody. So even if I was to open source this, it would be a little bit overwhelming to even get configured, and it's not something I want to support. But I'm always happy to talk about the code. I do share components, and if you're watching the stream and thinking, "Oh, that'd be useful," I'd love to see that as a library, or I'd love to see that. I'm always happy to share components of the system if they can be broken out separate from the system. So things like my Kafka library for how I configure Kafka and get that up and running in the application. That's a project I've provided, and the mediator outbox stuff I've built that so that can be used. You know, there's definitely use in some of these things that go beyond this project specifically. So yeah. So I think that does tie up files for this right now. This is quite a large change, 112 files change across the course of several weeks worth of work on this file upload. Actually, not several weeks. This has been a week. I think I started it last week. So we got some new routes in there for attachments. We can upload an attachment. We can upload the details of an attachment. Again, attachments is its own component of the system. So I don't have to have now, if I do tickets and I want attachments, I don't actually have to do anything different. I just need to say, yep, provide the tool for uploading. How I upload is handled in there. So what storage it uses is all handled within attachments. And now associate it with the ticket, associate it with the tenant, etc. I can do all those things separately now. So attachments is a global component. And yeah, so that is where we're at. I'm always open, like I said, I'm always open to questions. I'm always open to discussing this further. So if you are interested and you'd like to know more, the Discord is available as well after stream. Um, Either I need to refresh my list of people doing app development, or more people need to be streaming app development at this time. He's way too big. That's not a streaming right now, is he? Wow. Okay, I'm like the little streamer doing app dev. All the other streams are pretty big. Oh, nice. Twitch gives you a raid finder now. Um, I don't want to raid into a massive stream. You're very welcome. If anyone's got any suggestions for raid targets, by the way, I would be more than open to because what everyone in my list is game dev. I'd really like to support other app devs, but then the only app devs I've found are large streams. Developing a cooking app. Let's give this guy a go. It's to restart my computer anyway, so I won't be tagging along on the raid. No worries, one line. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, let's go try this guy. So we'll go try Colonel Simpler. He's got a couple of viewers in there, and he's on his target for his follower goal. So let's go raid this guy. I've not gone in there before, so obviously that comes with some disclaimer. But thank you very much. Actually, it's Wednesday, isn't it? So don't forget, if you haven't followed, go see one line later on today. It is Wednesday. I assume a stream will be coming later on. Very worth checking out. And yeah, so thank you for joining me. I will be back tomorrow doing more of this. We'll start working on notifications and planning that out. And yeah, take care all. Have a great day. And I have no, I'm shutting the stream down screen, so we'll just awkwardly wait that out. Take care all. Bye.